Hello and welcome to this meeting of the Georges River Local Planning Panel. For those of you who are joining online, you put yourself on mute, please, because we can hear you in the meeting. On mute, and just turn your camera off for the time being as well. Thank you. I'm going to go through some preliminaries about the structure and the protocols for the meeting and introduce the panel, and then we will hear from those people that have registered to address the panel this afternoon. So, as I said earlier, welcome to this meeting of the Georges River Local Planning Panel for Thursday, the 3rd of July, 2025. My name is Stuart McDonald and I'm the chair of the panel meeting today. I'm joined by colleagues. On my immediate left is Rita Vella, who is a community representative on the panel. On my immediate right is Judith Clark, who's an expert panel member, and on my far right is Brian Kirk, who is also an expert panel member. For those people attending today, either in person or online, the panel is made up of independent people, so we're not part of the council. We're appointed both by the Minister for Planning and, in the case of Rita, by the council to be an independent expert that has some decision-making roles in relation to development applications. And today we also have a planning proposal in front of us that will be making a recommendation to the council. We only have two items on the agenda today, one DA and, as I say, one planning proposal. I'd like to, on behalf of the panel, acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters and sky in the Georges River area. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who live, work and meet on these lands. I'm required to advise that under the provisions of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, this meeting of the panel is being live streamed and will be made available on the council's website. In accordance with the council's meeting protocols, interested parties wishing to make representations were requested to register and provide a summary of their interests. We have 4 registrations received today, and they're all in relation to the development application. I beg your pardon, 3 of them are for 40 net to Annette Street Oatley, the development application, and 1 is in relation to the planning proposal. As required by the panel's code of conduct, members are required to disclose any conflicts of interest, and we have done that. There have been no conflicts of interest registered by any panel members, and that's in writing and will form part of the minutes of the meeting as well. The panel has received those 2 reports today, one on the DA and one on the planning panel. And just by way of background, the panel has read the assessment report in relation to the DA and the planning proposal. We've also been supplied with, in relation to the DA, with the plans proposed and all the accompanying DA documentation, including the clause 4.6 request. We've also been to the site today, so inspected the property both from within the property, from the street and from an adjoining property. So I'm mentioning that because we come before you with quite a bit of information. We've also been briefed by the council assessment officer in preparation for today. So we're armed with all of that information, but nonetheless, we're here to hear from the interested parties, and your contribution today will form part of our decision-making process. In relation to the planning proposal, we've also been on site today and had a look at the land involved. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. I'd just ask you at the end of your 3 minutes just to pause, because the panel may have questions of you, so just be prepared if we do throw any questions at you. Anyone addressing the panel remotely, the same rules of course apply to you. So when you're invited to speak, you'll have 3 minutes, and again, just pause because we may have questions for you as well. Just a couple of final things. Just a reminder, and I'm sure this won't be the case today, but it's part of the requirements for running this meeting that I provide you with a warning that any defamatory, discriminatory or offensive language used may result in the author being exposed to liability for which counsel and the panel take no responsibility. Once we've heard from all the speakers today, the panel will then retire. I'll close the public meeting and we'll retire and make our determination, and the decision of the panel will be published on the council's website usually within the next 2 to 3 days. As we only have 2 items today, I think it'll be fairly prompt. But you should keep abreast of the council's website and perhaps also the council's assessment officer if you wish to discuss the matter post panel meeting. The first, or item number 1 today, is the planning proposal. But seeing we have more speakers here for the DA, I'm going to flip the order if that's okay with everybody. We'll deal with the DA first. So the first speaker in relation to the development application for alterations and additions at 42 Annette Street, Oatley. The first speaker registered to speak is Philip Howarth. Then we have Cameron Jones and David Waghorn. Were you wanting to speak in that order, or are you wanting to speak together, or how would you like to approach it? Yep, come up, that's fine. That might make more sense. So I'll leave it to you how you'd like to run it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just confirming you all received the additional information in relation to context that we.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Yes, we did receive that more recent correspondence, including the photographs. Yeah, right. So we also have that in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak. Importantly, with this application, I just want to reinforce that no objection from any surrounding properties. We've received the report and have read the report, and the officer's summation of the DCP controls paints quite a negative picture of the proposal rather than what we were hoping would be a merit-based assessment for what is essentially minor alterations and additions to an existing residence. We understand very clearly that there are numeric non-compliances with the application, and we have discussed this at length with council. Unfortunately, the current recommendation for approval with design condition 12.1 to us is paramount to a refusal. The proposed alteration additions will have no impact on any adjoining dwellings nor the foreshore of Oatley Bay. During the assessment, we were left in the unfortunate position to have to withdraw the original application and lodge a BIC for previous works completed. We were not aware that those works were done, which were mainly underground and had been completed without approval. The assessing officer at the time made it very clear to us and the clients that she had no issues with the proposal in its existing form, but just needed to get the non-approved works formalised. And it was on the back of this conversation with the previous officer we proceeded with the amended application that is before council. Unfortunately, this officer has since left the council. In negotiations with the new officer at council, we made numerous compromises to the plans, but at all times made it abundantly clear that we would be seeking to retain the study. Without the study, there would be no point in progressing the works. We believe that the significant changes made to the application would be enough to gain council support and agreed with all of council's suggested changes with the exception of the study. Throughout the report, council mentions on numerous occasions that the application does not fit within the desired future character of the area. We struggle to see how this discrete addition to the rear of an existing residence that reads single story from the street does not fit within the desired character, particularly with what has been recently approved around it or is under construction in close proximity. It also doesn't make sense to approve the bedroom addition on the northern side of the residence, but not the study beside it. The additional area of the study will have no impact on the surrounding properties or the foreshore, yet will contribute enormously to the amenity of the home for the occupants. Whilst we understand that there are numerical non-compliances, we believe that the application, including the study, should be approved on its merits. The proposal sits more than comfortably contextually within its neighbours and the surrounding area. Just in closing, this journey has been going since November 2023 for the owners, and we were given clear but unfortunately verbal indications that there would be no issue with the small addition. I fear that the current recommendation without the study will have been an enormous waste of time and money for the applicants. We are happy to accept the required design change condition 12.2 regarding the stairs down at the rear of the site, but we would dearly like the panel to reconsider the removal with the removal of design condition 12.1 to allow the study to remain as part of the application. Thank you.
Thanks. We might hear from all of you and then see if there's any questions from the panel. So, Mr. Waghorn, you're looking like you're getting ready to go next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'll go next. I won't repeat what Cameron has said. I'll just instead focus on condition 12.1, which in my opinion appears to be predicated on the subjective notion that the building has excessive bulk and scale and does not minimise the visual impact. Whilst I accept that the proposal is over the FSR, this is an existing situation, and this current proposal before you only adds about 21 square metres to the development, which is on the first floor level. Importantly, that first floor level addition complies with the height, the side setbacks and the rear setbacks, which means that I say that is anticipated by the planning controls. The first floor extension, as you would have seen on site, the existing building is a 3-storey building. It is noted in the council report as a 3-storey building, and the first floor extension will maintain that 3-storey appearance. When I go through these montages, look, I may be oversimplifying things here, but from my understanding, condition 12.1 is effectively saying the difference between an acceptable and unacceptable built form is a 3 by 3 metre study on the first floor level. 3-storey is, I would say, prevalent in the area, as noted in these montages that you'll see, especially looking to page 2 of the montages, showing the surrounding built form on the waterfront. They are all 3 4-storey buildings that are of significantly greater scale than what is proposed. If I take you to page 3 of the montages, this is an elevated view, so not what you would see from the water, but an elevated view just to simply show the addition, because you wouldn't see it otherwise the further you go from the water. So what is acceptable and what is not is effectively on the bottom montage, deleting the left-hand window on the first floor level. Council considers that to be acceptable. So you retain the right-hand one. It would still be a 3-storey building. It would still visually appear a 3-storey building, but as Cameron said, it would significantly impact on our client's amenity for no apparent benefit. You can't see it, there's no objections, and there are no impacts arising from this element. It is compliant with the envelope, and we say that condition 12.1 is unreasonable and therefore should be deleted.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, no. So we heard from Mr. Jones, beg your pardon. Mr. Howard.
Thanks for the time to present and for your time to visit site today. I'll talk about three points of how it affects us and what we want to try and do in the house. Firstly, the impact on the family and what we're trying to achieve, the perceived impact on the surrounding area, and then thirdly, we've tried to comply with council throughout the whole process. Firstly, the impact on the family and what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to reconfigure a 1980s house into something that works as a long-term family home for us. The two main changes that we're really after, which is the reconfiguration of upstairs bedroom and the addition of the extra study upstairs. So why do we need an extra study? I work 100% of my time from home. In the last 12 months, I would have been into our Sydney office for 4 days and into our Singapore office, who I work for 3 days. And the previous 3.5 years that we've been back in Australia would have been the same. I could count on my fingers the amount of time I've been into the office. So I work in that room 100% of the time. It's a standalone room. We don't even treat it as part of the house. That's where work starts and home finishes. Unfortunately, in that situation, my wife also works full time and she often works from home as well. She does not have a private area to work at, so she works at the kitchen table. She works in the education field at one of the largest private schools, in charge of teacher performance and student performance. So she often has confidential and sensitive discussions that I shouldn't hear and I don't want to be aware of. So when she has those calls, it basically takes that whole living area where you walked in down the stairs, a no-go zone. I don't want to hear that conversation. I shouldn't hear those conversations. It means I can't make my lunch, I can't have a cup of coffee, and I have to sneak around depending which way the camera on the laptop's facing to go to the bathroom. So she needs a private area that she can use as a study. And if you know teachers, if you're married or know of any, they have a lot of crap as well that they need to store. So it's not like we can scale it down and put a nook somewhere. You didn't go down to the lower levels, but there's bookshelves throughout that house of stuff that's stored. So we really need that study. We also need the bedroom reconfigured because we're trying to make that upstairs room the master. It's quite small. You can walk into the robe and the ensuite, but it is quite small. It wouldn't fit my clothes, let alone my wife's work clothes. And so we're just trying to reconfigure that. And we've got 2 kids, 21 and 25 years old, who are at uni, don't have any income, have huge uni debt. They're not going to go buy a house anytime soon. So we're trying to make it a multiple zone residence so that we can have the upstairs area and they can have basically the bedrooms downstairs and have a bit of space to themselves. We also know as we get older, the stairs become an issue. So if we can make the upstairs room the main master bedroom, then from the entrance, it's only half a flight up, and the main living area is another half a flight down. So as we get older, it makes it a much more practical house for us to live in. And if we need to put a chairlift in, touch wood that we never do, but it's easy to do at the moment. The bedroom's right down the bottom. So that's my time. As far as the how it fits into local area, the house is invisible from the water. You've seen the montages, you've got to really look for it. Every surrounding house is much more prominent than what ours is. And I think it's a very subtle change that we're trying to make. And then lastly, like we've tried to work with council all the way through the history of the original DA, the BIC, and then this DA, it was a real surprise to us at all some of those issues towards the end. We've tried to accommodate council however we can. We've pulled several iterations of pulling that upstairs bedroom and study back as much as practical and the deck as much as practical. It's not practical to do anymore. If we can't put the study in, it's not a feasible renovation. You know, we'll be gaining a walk-in robe and a slightly bigger ensuite. That's all we gain. And I'm not spending the money just to do that. But the neighbours have no issues whatsoever. They ask us when we're going to start because they're surprised the process has taken so long. They're fully supportive.
Thanks, Mr. Howarth. Any questions of any of the speakers from panel members? I don't have anything. Nothing? No. Okay. Thank you all for your presentations. We'll take all that now. Come to our decision. Appreciate you making the house available today.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll move on to the other item of the agenda, which is actually Sorry. I'll start that again. I beg pardon. Back to item 1 on today's agenda, and it's a planning proposal, and it's titled Part of Moore Park, the address being 33 Lob Crescent, Beverley Park. It's a planning proposal lodged on behalf of the council for the reclassification of a relatively small triangle of land adjacent to the St George Leagues Club. And the one registered speaker we have is Chris Shannon from MECO. You online, Chris?
Oh yeah, can you see me?
I can.
Hello?
Yep, we've got you. You're coming
Can you
through
hear me?
loud and clear.
Can you hear? Okay, great. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Chris Shannon, Director at MECO Planners. We were engaged by council's property team to prepare the planning proposal on its behalf. I registered today not so much to present to the panel, but to be present for any questions the panel may have. We're satisfied with the report from officers and the recommendation from its officers. So I'm here to answer any questions or provide any clarification on the proposal that the panel may have.
Good, thanks, Chris. So you probably heard my prelim at the start of the meeting, which was that we've been briefed on these matters by council officers. So in relation to this planning proposal, we attended the site today. We've also heard from the council's consultant who's assessed the planning proposal on behalf of the council on the as the planning authority. And the only one thing that has come up in those discussions, and I'll just alert you to it as you're acting on behalf of the proponent, is a question over the going way back to the original resumption of land and the terms of that resumption, whether it was resumed for a public purpose or the nature of that public purpose and under the terms of the legislation at the time. My colleague on the panel, Mr. Kirk, has raised that there may be some further statutory inquiries that need to be made about the terms of that resumption. But I might let Mr. Kirk talk further than that because he's more familiar with the issue as it's cropped up in other similar cases in the past. I'm just alerting you to it because it'll probably form part of our recommendation to the council that there should be some further research on this one point.
There are three parts to this to be aware of. One, land was resumed under the Local Government Act 1919, so it's the old act. It was resumed for a specific purpose, and it's currently and has been zoned for some time RE1 for recreation purposes. So it doesn't. There's no answer to this. It raises the question that just needs to be considered, and we, the panel, don't have the answer today. It may require some advice to be taken on the matter. It's as to whether or not the land is subject to a trust for public purposes. Now, that's not a registered trust. It's a specific term that's used in the current legislation, and there's relevant case law on the matter. It tends to be an issue that is greater significance where reclassification occurs by resolution rather than by LEP. But the purpose of the LEP process, or one of the things, all interests need to be identified for the planning proposal to then discharge those interests. But when I say trust, it's not a registered trust. Consider it this way, you could reword it that the land is held by the council on trust for the public. And it just needs investigation to ensure that issue is ticked off. And it doesn't become a hurdle. Best to deal with it now. That's all. Just needs to address it. So provided the council. Yep. Sorry, Don. You go.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying. Yeah.
So it's just requires some further investigation. That's all. And it may mean that the council will need to take some advice on that matter to make sure that the pathway is clear. That's all.
So it's not necessarily a
Understood.
statutory barrier. It's just a step along the road
Yeah.
that has just alerting the council that one to be aware of it, and then secondly, if it is in fact the case that they need to tick off that step in the process. So that's I don't
Correct. Yes.
think there was any other questions, but I'll just ask my colleagues if there was anything else for Mr. Shannon. No, nothing further. So thanks for your attendance.
So, thank you.
So you know what's coming your way, or the council will know what's coming their way in terms of advice from the
Understand.
panel. Yep. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right, we've heard from all the speakers. The panel will now retire to make its decision in relation to each of these matters, a determination in relation to the DA and the advice it's going to frame to provide to the council in relation to the reclassification planning proposal. So I'll call this public meeting to a close and thank those who attended online and in person, and to the council officers for your assistance today.